Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, then welcome, and if you're a regular visitor, hey, really cool to have you back. If you follow me on my social media, you'll have seen I've been out in Girona for a couple of weeks with mates, having a bit of fun, and on the way home I managed to pick up a cold on the plane, which saw me pretty much take a whole week off from training. I just thought that was the right thing to do to try and recover hard and fast. That week in Devon, I literally did nothing, but I had a trip to France booked and was considering not going, but the cold felt like it was going. So I thought, sod it, I'll go and I'll ride easy miles, just down from the chalet, go for coffee and back if I didn't feel great. It'll be fun, it'll be sunny, it'll be a cool place to finally get rid of the cold. So hell, why not? And I had some mates and some of the guys that I coach coming, so it just made sense to just go for a chill week. My hope was really that a week in dry, warmer weather would be just the tonic to really just get rid of this cold. When I got back from France, I felt pretty good. The weather in Devon was pretty good, so I started back on the training plan. And a week later, I was back to square one. My body was going, no, I'm not ready to do this, and it kicked me into the ground. Now, I don't think I've got COVID. I just think it's a really bad cold, but it's definitely knocked me off my return to really structured training, and I haven't really had a chance to film anything of interest with my own training, so this video is going to be in two parts. Part one is going to be what I plan to focus on in training on the bike and in the gym to build my strength and power by the end of the year. And in the second part, I'll answer some of the questions that you guys sent in on the channel. And if you keep watching to the end of the video, I'll talk about the two branded races that I've entered in 2025. Trust me, these are going to be tough. So I need to be in good shape for these. And I'm also going to talk about some of the self-styled challenges that I'm going to put in for the early part of next year. So let's get into it. Righty, I'm hoping that this cold will have finally got rid of by the end of this week. I'm definitely feeling a lot better, but as you can hear, I'm still feeling a little bit sort of stuffed up. So if everything goes to plan, the idea is to start some base threshold sessions on the turbo, or if the weather's decent, I'll do some threshold hill reps to start getting back into some structure and rebuild some threshold work on the bike. On the turbo, I'll probably start with 2 on, 2 off, and then progress them on to 3 on, 3 off, 4 on, 4 off. Just make them really straightforward and simple to follow. I think after this cold, I don't need to do anything crazy. I just want to make sure that I'm just ticking over towards the end of the year. And if I go and do some hill reps, I'll probably follow similar structure. So I'll do 4 efforts, drop back down really steady, do that times 4, and I might add 1 longer effort to the top of the hill because I quite like doing that. It's a bit of fun. I'm only going to do 1 hard session a week because my other big focus is strength training and adding 1 more functional strength training session to work more of my posterior chain with exercises like Romanian deadlifts, landmine squats, rotational single arm presses, and landmine lunges. The other thing I wanted to do was drop a couple of kg going into Christmas because I'm trying to change my body shape for these big races next year. But, it doesn't make any sense to be doing that when you're not well. So I'll start my diet when I'm feeling a lot better, and I'll talk about what I'm doing with my diet in the next video and how I intend to lose weight quickly. Righty, let's answer some of the questions that you guys sent in. Billy Munyan, I hope I've got that right, wrote in and asked what are the right foods for fueling high intensity workouts while maintaining and achieving weight loss targets. This is quite similar to another question that I've been asked today, so I'll just talk about the foods that you should be focusing on to have lots of energy in your training. Carbohydrates are your friend when you're on a weight loss journey and you're driving harder on a calorie deficit. So you want to make sure in some of your main meals you're going to have rice, pasta, sweet potato, quinoa, things of that nature, which is going to give you plenty of energy to turn the pedals round. Think forward about your training. So if you're going to train in the evening, make sure you have something that's fairly high carb, couple of hours before your training session. So some things I like to get the guys and girls working here at Velo to focus on is making sure they have at least 30 to 40 grams of carbs in a meal a couple of hours before they train. And that could be anything from granola, toast and jam, a couple of bagels, anything like that which is low volume but high energy, so they know that when they get on the bike, they've got the power to be able to complete the session. In the session, look, you want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of fluids with electrolytes to make sure that you're staying hydrated and retaining the fluid within the cells. But bear in mind, if you're dehydrated, your session's going to go bad. And if you're doing early morning sessions, then what you eat the night before and for lunch the day before that matters, because you want to make sure that you're fueling in a way that you're going to have plenty of glycogen stores to recall on when you're doing early morning fasted training sessions. Because I don't know anybody that gets up at, let's say, 5 o'clock in the morning and wants to eat a breakfast and then jump on the bike. I don't do that. Generally what I do is make sure I'm eating well enough so that when I do get on the bike, I can get on it and start training, and I will fuel that training session with carbohydrates in my water bottles. It means that you can just get up and start training. This is, of course, as long as it's an hour long, where if you are getting up and doing a longer ride first in the morning, then you're going to have to approach it slightly differently. Jeffrey Anthony 7348 said, I get to the gym 3 times a week. Each session is about an hour. Will this benefit me for improvements on the bike? And how do you fight against the need for rest and want to Zwift full gas riding? Not quite sure I understand that, but let's give it a try. Will strength training make you feel a bit leggy in your harder training sessions? Well, yes, they will. So how do you make sure that you train in a way that that's not going to happen? Thing is, when you do your strength training, you want to try and leave at least 48 hours after your strength training to go and do a really tough turbo or race on Zwift, because you're going to be neurologically fatigued in the muscle and your body's going to find it tough to put out power. It's not going to be able to stop it from putting out power, but the RPE of that power is going to feel a lot harder. So the simple answer to your question is yes. Training 3 times a week in the gym and being mindful about growing your strength over the winter will definitely make you stronger and more powerful on the bike. What I would watch is how much Zwift racing you're doing, because if you're doing 3 or 4 Zwift races during the week, then all of that is way too much. Adrian Wells asked me, I'm interested in weight loss while maintaining or ideally improving my power. But as someone who is overweight, is it the same as someone who is normal body weight but seeking to improve power to weight? Or can I be a bit more extreme in my weight loss while I'm training? Okay, so let me give you a few great tips. First off, when you're looking at your weight loss, think of a target number you want to get to and put your protein target at 1.6 at your target weight. So if you're, let's say, 120 kg right now, but you're aiming to get to 90, eat as much as 1.6 grams aimed at 90, because that's going to give you way more wiggle room to eat more carbohydrates in your calorie deficit, which will give you plenty of energy to train. And that's a mistake a lot of people make, which is when they're on a weight loss journey, they target their protein intake at their current weight, which is, as you can see, maybe not the right thing to be doing, because you're eating more calories in protein when you don't need to be. When you're training, you need to be in a calorie deficit, but when you've got a lot of weight to lose, can you push that quite hard, because you've still got lots of fat reserves which are going to turn into energy? And the answer to that is you can, but should you? And you can, and sometimes you feel like you can, and sometimes you feel like you just don't want to. So you can structure it in a way around your big training days where you're going to have a moderate calorie deficit, and on days that you know that you're not doing a lot of training but you feel mentally and physically okay to push hard. And this is with the caveat of, as long as it's not going to affect your recovery, sleep patterns, anything like that. So you have to be super mindful about this. that you can push really hard one day and push harder on a calorie deficit, and then go back to a moderate calorie deficit for a couple of days when training starts to pump up and be a bit tougher. So you're eating plenty of food to have energy to train hard. I think when you're trying to lose weight, the most important thing to get across is this. Make sure you're eating foods that are good for your energy levels. You're eating plenty of whole foods that are rich in fiber, vitamins, minerals, so fruit, veg, things of that nature. And make sure you're polarizing your carbohydrates before your training, in training, and after training to get decent recovery and get glycogen back into the muscles. But then you can be really flex on pushing really hard one day, holding it at a very moderate calorie deficit the next day, up to maintenance, hard, moderate, hard. You don't have to follow the same paradigm as moderate, although that's generally the way that I say to people that they should, if they don't have a lot of weight to lose, but they just want to do it gradually. Because when you're running off a moderate calorie deficit, it takes longer to get there, but you generally have way more energy day to day to be able to do your training and feel good about yourself and not restrict too much. Let's talk about my 2025 race announcements, which I'm really excited about doing. Now, these races aren't until the latter half of the year, so in the first part of the year, I'm going to take on some personal challenges, which I'm just sort of like creating and putting together now, and I'll talk about those at a later date. I'm pretty excited that I've been chatting to the guys from Inferno, and they've invited me back to go and race Inferno France next year, and one of their new races that they're putting together right now in the Dolomites at the end of September. Inferno France will be 3 days back-to-back, cycling over 100 miles each day and climbing 5,500 meters each day. There's a theme here for sure. And in Inferno Dolomites, this will be a 4-day cycling challenge with over 100 miles each day and 5,500 meters of climbing. It's going to be super hard, so I need to be in pretty good shape for both of those. The cool thing is I've got Constantine from Inferno coming to see me over the next couple of days, and we're going to sit down and talk about the evolution of the race and the company, and I think it's probably going to be a good idea to film that because where they're going with Inferno is going to be big. Righty, that's it for this week. I hope you found those answers to your questions helpful. I'm going to be back in a couple of weeks' time with a video with Constantine and hopefully starting my training for the latter part of the year to show you what I'm doing and how it's going. So, look after yourselves and I'll be back in a couple of weeks.